Hi, this is Laura Jones, and I am in my 6th week of my abnormal behavior class, and this is part of the project that we have to do for the end of the class. I chose to pick my actual fiance as who I wanted to interview because he has an interesting story. He has a few different mental health conditions, but has also been through things as well. So I just figured what better way to do it than to interview somebody and let them tell their side of it and talk about what they've gone through and things like that. So, just a little bit. Stick your head in. This is Casey. This is my fiance. And, well, I shouldn't have touched it really, but okay. Scoot this way some. Sorry, shouldn't have touched it. Okay, perfect. That'll work. And what we're going to actually talk about today is he is diagnosed with 4 conditions, one being PTSD, depression, anxiety, and then traumatic brain injury. So I guess start off by telling them what caused the initial traumatic brain injury.
Well, I was the initial traumatic brain injury. Happened August 31st, 2006. And I was in my Humvee in Iraq, and we were hit by an IED. I don't really remember much about it. I don't remember anything about it. I just remember driving and everything went black. After that, when I was pulled out of the Humvee, I just know that I had a major concussion. I had, come to find out, had swelling and bruising on my brain, on my left-hand side from apparently hitting my head up against the 3-inch thick glass that are in the Humvees and against the door. And just from there, just a lot of recovering.
So what are some of the symptoms that you have had or that have to this day that are associated with your traumatic brain injury?
The worst of it is the short-term memory loss that is a constant that I deal with, daily battle, all the time.
We've even had some arguments about that because
Yeah.
I know it's not his fault, but I get irritated sometimes because
she gets tired of hearing, well, I forgot.
Yeah, pretty much.
I kind of forgot.
Yeah, so. And, okay, and then from that, though, stemmed the PTSD, I'm guessing.
No, there was lots of instances from that, you know.
Were they military?
Yeah.
Okay. And
which caused the PTSD. A lot of things that you don't expect to see through your life or any part of your life. You don't expect it. I've seen things that I didn't want to see, that I continue to see in dreams and, well, nightmares, in other words. And
he moves around a lot sometimes in his sleep. Like, some nights he doesn't, but some nights he'll be jerking and twitching and his whole body will, like, flinch and...
Or jump completely out of my sleep.
So what other things have you dealt with the PTSD in the past?
Well, the TBI mainly is... Let's go back to that for a second. I've dealt with a lot of headaches. There used to be a lot of migraines, like debilitating migraines. I've been in the ER several times because of them. Migraines to the point of putting me in a dark room with no noises for 2 days straight to get over it. Been on several medications for it. And I still deal with headaches all the time. But they're nowhere near as bad as they used to be. But it's constant.
Yeah.
With the PTSD, I find myself having a lot of mood swings, a lot of anger problems that I can't always control. Usually gets the best of me. People get mad about it. I become an absolute you know what sometimes.
So, with the traumatic brain injury and the PTSD, what do you take medication wise to help with that?
Well, for the mood swings and everything, and for the depression part of it, I take. I take Celexa. For the depression side of it, for just blockers for really get my chemical imbalance back in order. For the major mood swings and the anger and other things, I take lamotrigine. I'm on 200 milligrams lamotrigine and 80 milligrams Celexa.
So, do you feel that the traumatic brain injury and the PTSD related to the military stems some of your anxiety and depression that you also deal with?
Yes, all the time. I get major anxiety attacks in big crowds. Not knowing, not having control of situations, I get major anxiety. I'm just not a crowd person. Not saying I'm a unsociable person. I am, but I just don't. When it gets too many people, I freak out and I can't handle it, and I just want to. That fight or flight comes into it, and my best thing is to go. My best thing is to go away, and instead of fighting it, because then my anger comes out and I lash out. So I have to stay away from that.
So, what about as far as the anxiety and depression? Do you take any other medication for that specifically, or does what you take? Did they tell you that's supposed to work toward that?
Well, the lamotrigine in combination with the Celexa does help with a little bit of the anxiety, but I'm not prescribed anything primarily for the anxiety. Because for one, the VA doesn't prescribe benzodiazepines, period. But they do have like other things. I've been prescribed propranolol. I've got one in there.
So beta blockers to help slow down the heart rate and the shakiness and the sweating and the side effects that are basically associated with an anxiety attack.
Right. And I also have been prescribed hydroxyzine, but that stuff just really knocks me out, so I just deal with anxiety.
And have you ever used any other form of treatment other than just medication?
I have gone through very extensive therapy programs. I went through one program in particular in California that was a live-in program with the VA for 2 months, so I did 60 days. Very intensive PTSD program to, help with a lot of things. I learned a lot from it to where I'm able to kind of sit back sometimes instead of lashing out. I'm able to sit back and look at what is actually happening instead of what I see is happening in my head. And that helps, but at the same time, it gets the best of me, and I see what I think is happening, and I get very irritable and just pissed off, and I usually have to walk away. Right. And then I get very depressed because I feel that I've hurt somebody in that way, and I'm down in myself, and then it's
and also,
it's a snowball effect.
The PTSD actually led you to become an alcoholic, and you went to therapy for that, right?
I've done a VA program for 8 weeks to get over being an alcoholic, which at the peak was 12-pack a day was that was my light night, was a 12-pack of beer. And I just, it was me drowning out the realities of life.
So then...
Drowning out my feelings and my anger and my pain. And
so through therapy, a couple different therapies, you ended up being sober, and you've been sober now for how long?
Almost 20 months.
Yeah, almost 20 months. So that's really positive aspect, and I'm sure that's helped with your anxiety and depression, not feeding into it with once you come out of the, drunken phase. You actually have to deal with things.
No, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of times, like, being drunk. I mean, I was drunk because I didn't want to deal with stuff. I didn't want to deal with the battles in my head, didn't want to deal with I didn't want to deal with life, so I, drank it away, but in actuality, it just made everything worse, and it was a tough battle.
So now you don't, though.
But now I don't, no.
So that's
I don't want it. I ain't touching it ever again.
So basically, to kind of sum up what we talked about here, was he has PTSD, a traumatic brain injury, which that actually led to some of the PTSD, but some of it was from other experiences he had with the military and going overseas. And then he also, from those, it stemmed into depression and anxiety. When you combine all that together, that's kind of significant in affecting somebody's daily life and how they function. So, sorry, that's my dry. So, the basic needs of somebody like that would be, support from family and friends, and I'm sure you had some of that to an extent. And then therapy, like he said, he went to therapy programs, and also medication. And I know that you always hear, and it's true to an extent, that medication is not going to just fix the problem. You're still going to have times where stuff is going to come up and give you issues, even on medication. I know personally I even deal with that. So you have to, therapy is good in teaching you, like he was saying, ways to rationalize things and to think through about, okay, what's really going on versus what I'm thinking in my head and things like that. So...
but at the same time, for the past couple of days, that I forgot to take my medicine.
Yeah, if he forgets to take his medicine, it does not go good. He's cranky and grumpy and irritable and snaps about everything. And I can tell if he's gone a couple of days without it. But I know that he usually tries not to go more than 3 days without it because it changes his personality. So... is there the possibility of something during the traumatic brain injury that could have affected his personality in that place in his brain? I would say yes, possibly. Probably why they started him on the lamotrigine. But, yeah, so that's another thing. It's very important to, if you are on medications, to stay on them and follow them the way you're supposed to. And to not miss days, because otherwise it can negatively affect you and those that are around you.
I mean, yeah, I'm already crazy, so, it just makes me even crazier, so I'm just saying.
So, yes, so he is a great guy, but he was a perfect person for me to do this project on and to interview, so I hope there is a takeaway from all this, and hope this has provided a good personal experience. So, again, this was Laura Jones, and it was my week 6 project about mental illness and conditions. So